Every leader eventually hits a wall. You have to make ruthless decisions to survive, and inevitably, you are going to make massive, costly mistakes. But standing up and apologizing is a trap. The moment you take responsibility for a failure, you project weakness. You invite the public to question your competence, and that doubt never washes off. On the flip side, if you overtly execute every harsh, unpopular policy yourself, the people you lead will grow to resent and despise you. This creates a paradox. To keep control, you have to act decisively, and sometimes brutally. But to keep public support, you have to look like a paragon of civility and grace. Proxy power offers a way out of this trap. By keeping their own hands clean, leaders can use two specific tools to deflect consequence, one to play defense and one to play offense. Mastering these tools allows a strategist to rewrite the history of their mistakes and dictate the terms of their future. It is the mechanism that keeps power from eroding under the weight of its actions. The defensive tool is the scapegoat. When a disaster happens, the clever leader immediately finds a convenient proxy, shifts the blame onto them, and cuts them loose to preserve their own reputation. This taps into a remarkably old human reflex. Thousands of years ago, Israelite priests would literally confess the sins of their community over a live goat, and then banish it into the wilderness, taking the collective guilt with it. We are wired to want an easy target for our anger. Look at the warlord General Cao Cao during the chaotic collapse of China's Han Empire. During a drawn-out siege, Cao Cao made a massive logistical error. He miscalculated the timing of his grain shipments, and his army ran out of food. He was forced to drastically cut rations. His spies reported that the starving men were grumbling, wondering if the general hoarded the food for himself. A deadly mutiny was hours away. Instead of taking responsibility for his bad math, Cao Cao summoned his chief of commissariat, a completely innocent man. He asked to borrow the man's head, executed him on the spot, and put it on public display. The mutiny stopped instantly. The soldiers eagerly accepted the dead chief as the reason they starved. They preferred to believe in a traitorous proxy rather than confront the reality that their supreme commander was incompetent. The scapegoat offered a clean, immediate resolution to their rage. If the scapegoat is your shield, the cat's paw is your sword. This is the proactive mechanism you use when something dangerous or ugly needs to be done, but you can't be seen doing it. The name comes from an old fable where a sly monkey desperately wants some chestnuts roasting in a fire. Rather than burn his own hands, he convinces his friend the cat to reach into the coals. The cat burns its paws, the monkey gets the food, and his hands remain perfectly safe. To see this in practice, look at an 18-year-old Cleopatra. To secure her rule, she needed to eliminate her rival siblings. But if the Egyptian public saw their queen openly murdering her own family, they would revolt. So she smuggled herself into the presence of Julius Caesar. She used her charm to align his imperial ambitions with her own, maneuvering the Roman dictator into fighting her wars. Caesar decimated the opposing Egyptian army, killed her brother, and imprisoned her sister, all while Cleopatra's hands remained pristine.
Fast forward to the 20th century, and Mao Zedong used the cat's paw to secure a total victory during the Chinese Civil War. Look at this tactical map. In the 1930s, Mao's communist forces were locked in a fight for survival against Chiang Kai-shek's nationalists. Then the Japanese army invaded China, creating a chaotic board of 3 distinct factions. Mao paused the civil war and agreed to an alliance with the nationalists. But instead of fighting on the front lines, he pulled his troops back. He let Chiang's conventional army act as his cat's paw. The nationalists absorbed the heavy artillery and massive casualties of the Japanese invasion, doing the grueling work of fighting the war. When the Japanese were finally driven out, the nationalists were entirely exhausted. Mao's forces, having rested and expanded their territory in the background, easily enveloped them. He used an invading army as a cat's paw to grind down his primary rival, saving his own strength to claim total victory. The absolute apex of this strategy is combining the two tools, using a cat's paw to execute your ugliest tasks, and then converting that exact same person into your scapegoat. In the early 1500s, Cesare Borgia needed to bring order to the lawless, bandit-run region of Romagna. Instead of going in himself, he appointed an intensely cruel lieutenant named Ramiro de Orco. Borgia gave him absolute power to pacify the territory using whatever violence was necessary. De Orco did exactly what he was hired to do. He established order, but his brutal methods made him universally despised by the local citizens. Once the region was stable, Borgia stepped in, declared his horror at de Orco's excessive cruelty, and had him publicly beheaded in the town square. It was a flawless double move. Borgia extracted the reward of a pacified, obedient region, but by sacrificing the man who did the heavy lifting, he sidestepped the hatred. The citizens thanked him as a clean-handed savior. But wielding proxy power requires immense delicacy. It is a fragile illusion. The moment the public lifts the screen and sees the puppet master pulling the strings, the dynamic collapses. In 1572, Queen Catherine de' Medicis of France wanted a prominent political rival dead. She conspired to have the powerful Guise family carry out the assassination, intending to use them as her cat's paw. The assassin missed. The target survived with a wounded arm, and because the attempt was sloppy, he immediately saw through the facade. He knew exactly who had ordered the hit, and he told the king. Catherine's exposed manipulation erupted into public view. The botched plot directly ignited the St. Bartholomew's Eve massacre, dragging France into a bloody civil war that left thousands dead.
These mechanics didn't disappear with queens and warlords. When a massive corporation gets caught in a scandal and immediately fires a low-level executive, or when a superpower funds a proxy conflict entirely across the globe, they are running the exact same playbook. True power rests entirely on managing appearances. The person actually in control is rarely the one taking the podium to accept the blame, and they are rarely the one leading the charge into the fire. They are the ones standing safely in the shadows, keeping their hands completely clean.